Hey, welcome. So if you ever tried to build anything digital, you've hit that first big wall. Where do I put all my data? Choosing the right cloud storage, it's like pouring the foundation for a skyscraper. You get it right, and you're golden. Get it wrong, and yeah, things can get a little shaky down the line. All right, let's jump in and clear this all up.
Okay, so you've got your application, your user photos, your backups, all this stuff, and it needs a home. But here's the thing. The cloud isn't just some giant hard drive in the sky. It's more like a massive hardware store with super specialized tools. So think of yourself as the architect. It's your job to pick the right material for the right part of the building. Let's go check out our three main options.
First up on our tour is object storage. And honestly, the best way to get this is to think of it like valet parking for your files. It's simple, it's efficient, and it's totally hands-off. So what does that mean in the real world? Well, it means your file could be a photo, a song, a giant video file, whatever. It gets bundled up with some descriptive info, which we call metadata, and then it's given its own totally unique ID. It just becomes this neat, self-contained object. And that valet analogy, it fits perfectly. Think about it. You drive up, you hand your car keys, your file, to the valet. They give you a little ticket. That's your unique ID, usually just a web link. Then the system takes your file and parks it somewhere in this just enormous, practically infinite parking garage. You have no idea where it is. And the best part? You don't need to know. When you want it back, you just show your ticket and boom, the system fetches it for you. This is absolutely perfect for things like backups, archives, and all that media you see on the web. And of course, all the big cloud providers have their own flavor of this. On AWS, you've got the absolute legend, S3. Over on Azure, they call it Blob storage. And on Google Cloud, it's GCS. Seriously, these services are pretty much the backbone of the internet at this point.
All right, let's move on. If object storage is the easy-breezy valet service, then our next option, block storage, is like having your own personal high-performance garage.
Okay, so what's happening here is the data gets chopped up into these little fixed-size pieces called blocks. The two words you need to remember here are speed and direct access. You can grab and change any single one of these blocks you want without having to mess with any of the others. And that makes it crazy fast for things that need constant little changes. And this is where that garage analogy just clicks. You're not handing your keys to anyone. Instead, you're given a raw, empty space that's all yours. You decide how to partition it, you put your own file system on it, you have total control. And this garage is attached directly to your house, or in our case, your server, which gives you the absolute fastest access possible. This is exactly what you need for things like a server's operating system or a high-performance database where every single millisecond counts.
And yep, you guessed it, the major players have you covered. AWS has its Elastic Block Store, or EBS. Azure has Azure Disk Storage, and Google Cloud calls theirs Persistent Disk. These are basically the virtual hard drives that are powering millions and millions of servers all over the world.
Okay, and that brings us to our third and final option, the database. And I want you to forget all about valet parking and garages for a second, because this is a perfectly organized library. So the most important word here, the absolute key, is structure. Databases aren't for just dumping random files. Oh no, they are built from the ground up to organize information into neat tables with rows and columns and then let you pull that information out with surgical precision using a special language, like SQL. Think about it. In our library, every single book is in the card catalog. It's indexed, it has its place. You don't just wander up to the librarian and say, can you find that blue book I was looking at last week? No way. You give a very specific query. I'm looking for a book by this author about this subject published after this year, and the system just goes right to the shelf and pulls exactly what you need in an instant. This is absolutely essential for things like e-commerce stores, user profiles, anything that relies on complex relationships between bits of data.
And you know the drill by now. The cloud providers have these amazing managed database services that handle all the tough stuff for you. AWS has RDS, which is super flexible. Azure has its powerhouse, Azure SQL Database. And Google Cloud has, you guessed it, Cloud SQL.
Okay, phew, we've met our three main contenders, the valet, the garage, and the library. Now for the most important part of all. How in the world do you choose the right one for what you're building? See, you have the knowledge now. You get the concepts. So let's take all of that and put it together into a really simple, actionable blueprint that you can use every single time you start a new project.
This right here is your ultimate cheat sheet. Let's just walk through it real quick. First, data structure. Are you just storing whole files like photos and videos? Go with object. Do you need a raw, empty space that you can format yourself? That's block. Or are you dealing with neat, clean tables of data? You need a database. Simple. Next up, access speed. Object storage is awesome for high throughput. That means moving big files fast. Block storage gives you the absolute lowest latency. We're talking lightning-fast reads and writes. And database speed is all about how fast it can answer your complex questions. And finally, the use cases just tell the story. Backups and big data just love object storage. Operating systems and high-speed apps demand block storage. And things like e-commerce sites, well, they run on databases.
You know what? Let's make it even simpler. Here is your dead simple 3-question blueprint. Just ask yourself these 3 things. Question 1. Do I need to search and query my data in really complex ways? You know, like find all my customers in Chicago who bought this specific thing last month. If the answer is yes, just stop. Start with a database. If not, go to question 2. Does my app need the absolute fastest, lowest latency access I can possibly get, like for a server OS or a high-speed game? If that's a yes, you need block storage. And if the answer to both of those questions was no, then ask the final one. Am I basically just storing big, whole files, images, videos, backups, and I need to do it affordably and reliably? If that's you, then object storage is your clear winner. It's as simple as that.
And there you have it. That's the secret. You're not just staring at a confusing menu of cloud services anymore. You're an architect with a blueprint. You get the foundational materials, the valet, the garage, and the library, and you know the exact questions to ask to pick the right one every time. So, I guess the only question left is, what are you going to build?